Good morning, Geekdom community. Welcome to another episode of the Geekdom Underground podcast. We have a special one today. Might be a little bit spooky.
Spooky season is upon us. Good morning, everybody. I'm super excited for today's episode of Geekdom Underground. We have an awesome podcast for you today. We have a guest, longtime Geekdom member, also an employee over at WP Engine, and an actor and producer in some spooky films, horror films. Today we have Mr. Brant Bumpers. Brant, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, y'all know how we like to do it on the Geekdom Underground podcast. We like to just kick it and have a casual conversation. So, Brant, if you would... Oh, wait. Whoa. How could I... Dude, there's some... it's a little spookier in here.
Yes, I wonder why.
Dude,
yeah.
It's just the vibe.
It is.
You know, but anyway, let's get right to it. Brant, if you could, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have, my hometown is here in San Antonio. So there's that. I went to college at SAC, and instead of finishing up at SAC, I actually started working in my field doing video production. And while I was kind of still kind of dabbling in just doing lighting and helping people out with items on their little short films that back in the day had to be shot with like camcorders and, you know, VHS camcorders because no one had anything fancy. And I was used out of practicality for acting, even though I've always wanted to do acting. But of course, I've always had this long hair, beard, and this look, and so people are like, "Oh, you're going to play this bad guy. You're going to play this guy. You're going to play," which was fine by me. I've always loved to play the villain, and that kind of manifested into more, and then I was asked to do some music videos for a band down here named Boxcar Satan that had been around for years. And so I did their videos and showed them at a festival, and people liked the videos. They liked me. I would put myself in one of them out of complete necessity. And I got people like, "Hey, can you be in my little project?" Sure. And then I would be in their project. Then it would go to a film festival. Then more people would see it. And then, "Hey, can you be in my little project?" Absolutely. Film festival, more people see it. So as I got to just make friends, go out into the world, just kind of kept happening. So, yeah, basically that's that. I work in the tech industry as a full-time work. Worked at Rackspace, where I know you.
Yeah, we've got some history.
That's the origin story.
Yeah, well, that is true. So Brant and I, we met back in Rackspace in, man, that must have been like 2013.
Probably 2012.
2012.
Because you were originally part of the Dragon Chats.
The Dragon migration,
yes. Yeah. If they didn't do a big migration, you probably wouldn't have joined the team right when you did.
That's true. That's true.
That's where, and then like after that, they're like, "Oh, you are now, you know, chatters and cloud servers, you know, we knight thee."
We made it.
Yeah. So, and everybody was, and I remember you had a stand-up desk that was right catty corner behind me. And we would turn around a lot, like a couple of like chatting Cathys, like turn away from our computers. So anyway, blah 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 blah, and then like, "Oh, hold on, I got to chat," and then like, so anyway, and like he would have like I remember you actually got reams of paper out of the closet to make your desk a little higher to where you like it, and people were like, "You can't use the office resources," and so it was just that kind of thing where he would always just do little things like that, like
Rebels.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So, like,
Dang,
we have
exposed.
empty boxes. It was awesome though. But here's the thing though, he was always so likable that other people would have been like, "Hey, you can't do that." With Philip, "You can't do that." So it was a lot of fun.
It's that charm.
Well,
yeah, dude.
Well, so let me also say, like, while we're on the subject of Rackspace, that was an environment that it played nicely with us because you were able to really customize your work environment, and that really built that was really ingrained in the culture of being a racker. And so let's talk a little bit about that. I used to give a lot of tours at Rackspace too.
I remember that.
And your desk was a destination. Can we talk about what that desk looked like?
Now, I've heard stories.
Okay.
So I'm glad to hear it from you.
Okay, no problem. So I remember when I first started at Rackspace, we were in phase 3. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar, Rackspace was adding a new edition called phase 4 right when I started, and we were in the older section called phase 3 before they finally opened it up. Phase 3, I remember I just started. I was still trying to even figure out what my job was. Went in knowing nothing. And I remember one of my friends that was also one of the other team's managers. He was like, you might want to consider decorating your desk. Because people would they would sometimes hey, we're bringing in lunch, and they would set it up at my desk because there's nothing on it, so they thought no one was sitting there. And I'm like, hey, I'm like that Milton from Office Space. Hey, I'm gonna set the building on fire. And so what ended up happening is when we went to phase 4 and we got our permanent forever desks. At least as much as you're going to at Rackspace. I was like,
3 months.
Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna, yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go ahead and set up my stuff. They're like, okay. So I went home and I got a furniture dolly and I got one of my huge radar simulators. Okay. It was originally at Randolph Air Force Base. I bought it from an antique store. I bought 2 of them, and I brought it in and I set it on the desk, and I brought in also some statuary, some old crows, all the stuff that was just old stuff I had laying around. And I set it all up, and I didn't think much about it. I was just kind of I hope they don't make me take this stuff home, because I never had a job where you can just decorate that way before. But those desks were solid. I could tap dance on there, and I'm over 400 pounds, and so I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And sure enough, the next day I saw people coming in is that your desk? What is this thing? This thing's amazing. And it looks like a great big switches and gadgets, and it's exaggerated in size, and all the knobs that are the toggle switches that are supposed to be just not even half an inch big, or almost 3 inches. That's how much exaggerated everything is. And people are all wanting to play with it. I'm like, yeah, go ahead and hit the...
It lit up and all the things.
It did. And I made a little, I also, while I was sitting there, I made a little dimmer for it. I got extension cord and some stuff and MacGyvered a dimmer so that I could turn it down, and, and people just oh my God. And they came over and took pictures sitting at my desk, and I had this great big captain's chair that was on a swivel. So you can kind of rock back and forth, and you can swivel around. And people would come over and take pictures sitting in it, and it was pretty neat. It was kind of people on the set of Seinfeld, sitting on Jerry's couch taking pictures, So it was pretty neat. I didn't expect it to be that much of a, because there's some people that had some amazing desks. I'm not kidding. So I was like, I'll just, see if I can keep up. No, people are like, oh no, this desk is amazing. I love this desk.
Destroyed the competition.
Dude,
yes.
It was amazing. I mean, well, also, Brant, we've been friends for a long time, and so I mean this in a loving way, but Brant had more stuff on his desk than a spirit store has inventory. And what was cool though is some of the stuff that you brought in were not props. It was you just oddities.
Yes.
Just different things.
Oh yes. I had old antiques. I had an old, I don't drink at all, but I still have an old growler, and I had, I had a couple of cups and old statuary cups and old things that I was okay, I like having this here, and old gadgets, and I even had I had a glass head that was wearing a child's Russian gas mask.
Wow.
And the hose, where the breather is, I got one of those old school style operators headsets. This is from way back in World War II, when they would be on roller skates trying to run around and patch in stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those, and I put it on there. And so then later on I got a whole it's like a torso of a mannequin, and I put a jumpsuit on it and a Russian gas mask and all this stuff, and I had it standing up, and I actually kind of fashioned a penny behind the mask that was hooked up to a piece of line so that I can move it, and the mask actually moves around, which was not fun for some of my my neighbors that were sitting next to me, because they're sitting there, all of a sudden they see the thing move around. And they actually, showing how uncomfortable they were around me. But the thing that I also did was there was these little plexi panels, these little white plexi panels between the desks that are kind of this is where my desk ends, kind of. Well, I took it down and I put up a frame with a piece of stretched nylon. And then I had a face, a face on the end of a stick, and I'd push it through there so it looks face coming out of the wall. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was super, super scary. And as one of Brant's desks, I sat behind him for a little bit, but then we ended up sitting right next to each other. And as one of his desk neighbors, yes, even though I knew what was there and what could be there, I would still get scared by the things that you do, and I love it. Like I welcome it. I mean, y'all know that I like spooky. Dude, I love spooky
I think it's
things.
cool though. Like, so they encourage that. They're like, "Hey, your desk is bare. Like, bring." I'm sure they didn't expect all that, but they're like,
as time got on and they got to know me, they'd be like, we should have known when we said, make yourself at home and decorate it. Like, okay, it's going to turn into his house.
Yeah, and I want to get more into that, but I want to save that for a little bit. I want to get into, because you talked about how, your full-time job is in the tech industry. And I was very much a part of that. I was on your team. I saw the work that you put in, and that was definitely a 40-hour-a-week job.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and when we're not working, we were learning. We were constantly staying on top of technologies.
Yeah.
But you were also in films, like in actual feature films, in short films, in the company. You would make company shorts and stuff like that. So can you talk a little bit about your your claims to fame and or any films that you've been in that you want to kind of highlight?
Well, let's see. When I first started there, I was an extra in Sin City 2 for like about a week.
That's awesome.
It was. I got to watch Jessica Alba dance for 2 straight days. It was because like I'm in the Katie's bar scenes where all the hooligans and bikers are. And what I really liked about that was that instead of me just putting on some of the times they would have me put my hair in a braid and they would put a big cowboy hat on me or something, but a few of those times I was actually just me in my regular clothes, the way I always look. So it just looked like me in Sin City.
That's so cool.
And I was like, yes, and it's like, if you could take your eyes off Alba, there's me. And I'm just sitting there, staring at whatever. And then so I was like, okay, I'm pretty happy with that. But then a friend of mine that was he's a local filmmaker, and he's also a play director, and he does a bunch of different stuff. Very talented guy, Brian Ortiz. He asked me one day. He called me up. He's like, "Can you come meet me at Jim's?" And I just heard Jim's. It's food. I'm there. That's all I needed to hear. But he was like, when I got there, he's his sometimes his modes is like real playful, but other times it's real stressed. And when he's real stressed, I know he's working on a project. And he wasn't stressed, but he was just kind of like in that beginning stages of I'm trying to put a lot together. He's like, here's some sketches of this character, but I would like you to play this character in my film. I said, okay, sure. And then he shows me like a picture of this. It looks like a homeless guy with a big beard, but he's got no eyes and a huge mouth. And I said, okay, yeah. And then he was like, we're trying to sign on Malcolm McDowell. I'm like, you're what? And so, for those of you that may need a little prodding on who Malcolm McDowell is, he's been in half the stuff you've ever seen, but he's also in Clockwork Orange. He's the main character in Clockwork Orange. He's and Caligula. But he's just a real oh wow, that's Malcolm McDowell. And then later on I'm seeing we just signed on Chris Mulkey and Robert Englund and John Glover and Lacey Chabert. And I'm like, how many people are going to be in this thing? And then the kid that I was that I starred opposite of, the film I'm in is about a kid that's has an abusive father, and on top of that, he's trying to navigate through everyday life, but also there's this homeless weirdo following him, and it turns out the homeless weirdo is not even human, and now he's got that to contend with.
Yeah.
So the kid is played by David Mazouz, who was on Touch with Kiefer Sutherland, but he went on to be on Gotham. He plays Bruce Wayne on Gotham. So, and it's pretty neat watching him grow up, over the years. But I just remember him being that kid that's twice as mature as I am. And we're sitting there at the reading, and he's sitting there going over his schedule, and I'm sitting there with I don't know, a lot of chewing gum on my script. Hey, yeah, how's it going, kid? And I was just at the script. I don't have any lines because I'm a creature. So
you have a lot of growls.
Yeah, exactly. Just a lot of and so I was just there for the kids to know who I was.
Yeah.
And for Chris Mulkey to know who I was. Chris Mulkey was playing the abusive father. And Chris Mulkey, he was in The Purge. He was in Whiplash. He's one of those people where you see a picture of him, you're like, oh, yeah, I've seen that guy.
Yeah.
He's a that guy actor, Yeah, he's not necessarily, I'd sit here and say Chris Mulkey, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, of course, that guy, No, you have to see him. But I grew up watching a lot of his movies and a lot of he was also in Twin Peaks. Yeah, he was all over Twin Peaks. So good actor, good person, and it was great working with him. But it was a lot of work, and it was a lot of work for my friends. And I'm that kind of person where when they're not filming me, I don't go to the set because I don't want to be another one of those people that's just clogging up the set because I just want to be seen. And so like Robert Englund, they're filming him, and I was like, well, I'm not in the scene, so I'm staying away. It's like, it's their first time working with these people. I don't want us to look like a bunch of hayseeds that are just like, and sure enough, when they were done filming Robert, like they had all these extras there. As soon as they're like, okay, let's wrap, all of a sudden you see everyone darting for the door, and we're like, oh no. And all of a sudden everyone comes back in with Freddy stuff for him to sign.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, and it's like, and he's not 5. He knows, he knows where
it's not his first rodeo.
Yeah, where his butter's bred. So he know that, okay, this is just kind of part of this territory. But he took it, very well in stride. It wasn't even like he was tolerating it. He was acting, he was very nice and cordial. But it was just kind of funny because, you go from not ever meeting these people to having a conversation with them about some really, horrid or weird stuff. And even like Chris Mulkey sitting there going like, so I wonder why this strain of hemp is legal over others. I'm like, I know. You know what? Legal marijuana, medical marijuana, I think it's more of a body high than a head high. And that's why it works so well. I'm like, I guess so. We're like in St. Mary's, school, sitting in one of the classrooms because like you're waiting, like that's our like little improvised green room. Also, and then another time we're in somebody's house. We're filming this big scene. We're in this house over by Woodlawn, and there's this person just let us use the house. They went out for the night and just let us use the house, and it was funny because the bed became like this guest studio. Like how like there's a talk show. In like the late night talk show host, and he has that couch where everyone's just kind of comes over and takes turns sitting on it, and then moves down or whatever, or the chair and then the couch. This bed was pretty much that for that. Like I'm sitting over by this makeup mirror, and then everybody would just come lie down on the on the bed and talk. And like Lacey Chabert comes over and lies down on the bed. She's all talking to us, and then like. They're like, Lacey, we need you on set. Okay, she gets up and walks out, and then in comes Chris Mulkey because they're not using him right away. He lies down on the bed, and he's sitting there talking, and it was just like a really weird like talk show.
Yeah, that's so funny.
It is. It was awesome, and so I was like, all right, cool. So, anyway, like working on that was like one of the biggest projects I ever worked on because it had the most celebrities in it, and it actually went the farthest as far as like release. I mean, I've got other films that were on like on Netflix but this was like kind of like a bigger, like, oh wow, this actually was also a comic book because they wanted to wanted to creep show it, but they didn't want to do the transitions that look like, creep show.
Yeah.
But they wanted it to be a comic book. And so out of the only 3 people in the comic book that were modeled after people in the film was Malcolm McDowell, me, and Chris Riley, who's unfortunately, Charles Riley, he passed away. And he was great actor, great person down here, and like he was the basically like the records keeper at this sanitarium, and he was like his character is the only character that was actually reading a sanitarium comic, and then he's in the comic. Like they actually patterned the look of the character off of him.
That's awesome.
It really was. It was really neat. My character, they patterned off of me, but they made him delightfully thin in the comic, where I was actually not so delightfully thin. So I was like, well, I mean, I'll take what I can get. This is how you remember me, and that's why I look to you.
Sanitarium, that's the title of the film.
That was the title of the film.
And the comic. And yeah, I mean, I remember when that happened. We, like we've already mentioned, we've been friends for a long time. I was there to support you, and I remember seeing it at the Palladium, and that was just, it was so cool because I remember just being there and just being like, I work next to that guy, like that. Not only the guy that's on screen, but also the one that is on the panel. With these celebrities, and that's such a unique thing to have, like those two, really those double lives, and have because they're so different from each other. So Brant, you're like genuinely one of the nicest, funniest, gentlest.
Why, thank you.
People I know, and I mean that.
Yeah, I'm sitting right here, dude.
In sincerity. So I'll say it again. But yeah, I mean, one of the nicest people that I've known, and we've been able to stay great friends. What's it like when like somebody calls you and they're like, "Hey, we need this big, scary, like mean, menacing person, and I thought of you."
It feels awesome, actually. I mean, I won't mix words on that. I've actually been told I look intimidating for like since childhood, and then like when I was in high school, I looked old. I had like a beard since I was 16. I had long hair. I wore a leather jacket and all black, and when I would walk around the hallways, I would actually kick doors open, because I would actually put my foot against the door and just like, bah, and like other people would try to do it and hurt their foot. And
I mean, you say that like you didn't do that here.
He showed up.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, he's wearing his boots. No. So like, it was, but like, so I got used to hearing that, and there were people saying, when I first met you, I thought, oh my God, and then like you're actually one of the nicest people, and it's cool. I'd rather be thought of as mean but found out to be nice than have because there's some people where that's the exact opposite. You thought they were going to be cool and they turn out to be horrible.
Yeah.
And so like it's actually great. And as far as the way I even the way I market myself is that I'm like, okay, I look mean, I look scary.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the dating world, it doesn't really help you, but it does magic for movies.
Yeah.
Like, and like, it's like, yeah, I'm not, and like, I don't have a first date kind of house either. Like, it's that kind of thing where you'd have to over explain why things are there. Okay, hold on. I know that looks like a devil behind a podium because that is, and it's in my bedroom because I have nowhere else to put it right now. Hold on. And then like, you're like, hold on, don't leave. Okay.
You got to explain every
little thing. Like before we open this door, what you're going to see is the following. And they're like, I want to go home. I was like, I bet you do. You go home. But like,
wait, are these like props that you picked up through movies, or just oddities that you like shopped for?
Oh God, a little bit of both. Cause I like oddities. I like weird. I even have like a lot of medical equipment, like surgical equipment, like antique equipment. And I'll pick up a little here and a little there, and like it just accumulates over time. But we've used it so many times in films, and we used it for like I remember like there's times where we had to make like a thumbnail for something, and I'm like, hold on, I've got this this old syringe, and I'm going to set it here. I'm going to take a picture of it up close, and send a few pictures out, and it looks like, oh wow, that looks really and I'm like, yeah, I just had some stuff lying around.
Yeah, does anyone have like a antique syringe,
calipers?
Yeah. He's like, do you have it? Yeah, I got it. Yeah, right over here. And matter of fact, it's funny because there's been quite a few productions where like. Garth Manor Cinema, they were wanting to do this 80s throwback type of like promo where it looks like the old slasher film and stuff, but like they wanted to look like kind of like a take on Mass Killer, but have it look real 80s. And I said, let's put him in a old cafe racer style leather jacket, a black motorcycle helmet, black gloves, and a great big survival, like one of those big survival knives. And, it's one of those things where they're just that kind of person where they're, their mask is their helmet. And, they're like, oh, I love that. I was like, let me see what I have. So I got a leather jacket from my dad, because I don't have, small, thin cafe racer jackets. My dad does. He rides motorcycles. And I got a helmet that was given to me by my brother. And I was like, well, here, it's not black yet, but we can paint it. And then I had the gloves and I had the knife, and I showed them like a variation of knives I had, and I said, well, there's this one. And they're like, those are perfect. So pretty much they went from, how are we going to outfit this killer, to, oh, we called Brant, and now he's coming over with a duffel bag full of goodies. And all we got to do is paint the helmet. And so they used it. I don't have the promo here. Like I don't know where to find it online, but they're like, oh yeah, it came out perfect. But like, that's been a lot of stuff. I even have like an old dentist drilling station that I've used for productions, and I've used for film or like photo shoots, and so I get called a lot for that, and it's pretty neat. And the thing is that there's a surprising amount of times where I just have what they need, like needful things, like I just happen to have that.
Yeah,
and like and I'll still like I'll buy things that's like that cost me $200, but you know what, I can rent it out for $100, and after a few days, more than make my money back. Or just have it on standby for something.
Yeah, something's going to come up, down the line.
Yeah.
Hey, I happen to have, one of those. Is there like a local shop that you go to? I know there's a couple in Austin.
There isn't a local shop that I just kind of go to. What I do is I just kind of wander around small towns and go to antique stores in small towns. Because small towns, they'll get a bunch of stuff in from estate sales that they don't know what to do with, and the locals just aren't buying because they just kind of like, they have probably 6 or 7 customers that show up on the reg. A lot of them aren't buying that stuff that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And I'll go over there and I'll get it. Like I got a friend of mine a replica prop from Phantasm, this little metal sphere that has these blades and a drill bit. It's like, that's the prop in the movie that flies around and kills people. It's an iconic prop to horror fans. So I was like, here, got you a gift, and I was like, I don't like the fact that it doesn't come in anything, so I'm gonna find a case to put it in. So I got this box from an antique store. As it turned out, it was an urn vault.
Oh,
so you open up the vault. It looked kind of like a casket. So when you open up the vault, there's the urns are sitting in there. They had it because the old occupants busted up, and little bits of the prior occupants were all over the inside of it. So I had to get a vacuum and clean them out.
Oh, wow.
And I made a casket looking thing that was a display, like a prop replica. And since I was 12, like for instance, I was like, I loved Chainsaw Massacre 2. I loved that exact chainsaw and costume and that exact mask. Loved it. And then I was on eBay and somebody was selling the Leatherface mask, that same one. I was like, I didn't even know they made this, and Death Studios makes it. Anyways, point is, I got it. I wasn't happy with the way they painted it. So I got one of my special effects friends to paint it. Then I was like, you know what? I've always wondered which chainsaw that was they used. And so I went to some forums, found out, and then I found one on eBay that was just like in the rough,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got the exact same guide bar that they use in the movie with the same black speed tip and got that. And then I took it all apart, cleaned it up, painted it, and made it a replica of the one from part 2. And I put together a part 2 costume, and I'm friends with Leatherface in part 2.
Nice.
So he lives in Austin. So I was like, hey, don't usually do this. We always talk about everything else, but what kind of suit exactly were you wearing? I don't usually go around asking old men what they're wearing.
Yeah.
But like I did this time. But like it helped me put together
so cool.
something. Yeah, it was really neat.
What'd you wear it to?
Oh, so
just to
I was
regular Friday night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, HEB. Yeah. Actually, believe it or not, during this whole pandemic, I have an Immortan Joe mask, and I did myself all Immortan Joe style and went to HEB that way.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, and just as a joke, I was walking around with like 2 big things of water in my cart. So like people wanted to take a picture.
Yeah.
So we would act like we're fighting over the water, or like they would.
That's
this one
awesome.
guy, he got his kid. He put like this. He had some E-tape in his pocket, and he put E-tape on the kid's face to look like that mask thing that Mad Max was wearing when he was strapped to the front of the car and had him stand on the front of my cart. And I was like, oh my God, that's so awesome. And took a picture, and the kid looked cool. The kid looked all, and like looked hilarious. And like other people, kind of like rolled their eyes at me, or just, kind of like gave me that glare, like you shouldn't be walking around like that. But
yeah,
I don't care.
No.
And I think, I'm not going to get arrested over it. I didn't. So like I just had an Immortan Joe mask on, and it was a lot of fun.
That's
and,
awesome.
Yeah, man. I mean, you got to have fun with these times, if you're going to have them. But
no, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I just basically I'll call up prop makers, and ask them, hey, can you make this? Sometimes I'll make my own stuff, but sometimes I'll see that somebody actually went through all the groundwork to make something exactly like it, like that screen. I've got a Brandon James TV series screen mask, and the guy went through like 3 iterations before he finally was like, okay, I'm pretty happy that this is screen accurate. And I'm like, I'll buy one. And then, awesome. And then like I've got like some screen accurate Jason masks, and I got some other ones that aren't so screen accurate, but they still look amazing and they were cheap. And then I have tube televisions, old tube televisions that we use for set props, for set pieces, and we used in films because of the fact that you can't find them anymore, and they're the old ones to look like, the 1980s.
Yeah. They have like the little knob, like click.
Yeah, click. Yeah, the UHF on top, and then the big dot on the bottom. Yeah, and I'll find old electronics. I've got old cameras that don't work, but they look like you can make it look like they do.
Sure.
And so I've got a bunch of stuff that. And it's funny because people will just kind of take a chance. One of them, it was like, sometimes it's even weird stuff for a film that we were doing that we filmed at my house. They said, do you happen to have one of those Chinese star dartboards? I said, believe it or not, I do. A friend of mine just gave it to me like 2 years ago for no reason. And they thought I was being, I was like, no, literally, it's like right here. And I pulled it out, and they're like, that looks better than the one we were going to order. And I'm like,
oh my God.
There you go.
And why is it used?
Exactly. So it's a lot of fun. And like, so I like being thought of as the villain. I like, and I like being used as that. I like being thought of as, scary looking. As long as, people understand that I'm not really a scary person.
Yeah.
And in real life, and I love scary things. I love old things. I love odd things. And so it's really great having people like when they come over, oh, Brant, show them this. Oh, Brant, show them this. And like, and people like just ooh and ah over it. Or, I've got old Star Wars stuff, and I've got, I've also got this. And like, people just love to go exploring around my house. Just, what all do you have,
Yeah.
And
you lock them in there. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I start playing the music box. Yeah.
You're like, hey, be careful. You might find like a knife or a machete or like a chainsaw.
And that's actually pretty accurate.
He doesn't babysit my kids.
No, I do not. Yeah. Uncle Brant's a bad uncle when it comes to that.
We, on the subject though of, and this is what I wanted to get back to, on the subject of like the oddities and the scary things and the props and stuff. I want to share a story. So one time when we were at Rackspace at the castle, which is what they called the headquarters there, they put out, I forgot who, but somebody put out this like call to action on like whatever team can make their area the spookiest. It's like the most haunted will win this, I don't know, insert weird prize here.
Yeah.
And for some reason we were like, well, we're going to kill this competition, and so we asked Brant, hey, would you have anything that could contribute to this? And it was seriously scary. Like I don't know if you've ever seen the castle, but it was like it's an open work environment, but we had built out this actual house using like black.
It was like black, thick tarp.
Yeah, super thick tarp. We hung it from the rafters and made it like this actual thing. So when you go inside, it's completely dark. We had lights and fog. We had tombstones.
How big is this area?
This was about like, I would say it was about 20 feet by 25 feet.
Oh, so you could get like creative with it.
Yeah, I mean, we had a team.
There was a lot of us in there.
Yeah, we had a team of what, 12 probably, 12 or 15 of us, and all of us were in there.
Yeah, mega desk over here.
Yeah, and ours combined, it was when we were next to each other, we had some height on our desk.
We did,
but there were, like I said, like tombstones that looked like actual tombstones at a cemetery.
Yeah,
but like stone tombstones that are like that thick.
Dang!
But you could pick it up with one hand. They're like styrofoam. Yeah,
that's cool.
But they were painted. They looked exactly like it. We had like potions that were light up and fog and then like doll heads and the spookiest thing, that face thing.
Yeah.
And everybody was like all the other areas. They went to like the dollar store or spirit store, and
they just got some of that webbing and just kind of like didn't even do it right. No one ever does the webbing right. But yeah, they're just kind of like they're all like it looks like someone just got cotton candy and went ugh. It was just kind of like that.
It looks like you went to the spirit store. We actually have real spirits.
Dude,
exactly.
We're actually like
doing like seances.
Dude,
exactly.
really scary. Yeah, Brant he brought the heat on that one. But
That's awesome.
But it was so much fun. Like it got the entire castle talking about it. And then we got in trouble. It brought too much attention to us because some fire hazard.
They're like, well, because of the fact that it's flammable stuff. If there was a fire, it would just be a huge fire. And I'm like, and then there's a few people. They're like, it's dark in here, and it's like it's supposed to be. Shut up, don't do this, and but other people are like, I've always wanted to do this, and like they're like so happy. But then because it was like so much because like we would walk in, it's dark. It looks like when the Star Trek movie where J.J. Abrams where they're on the board and it looks like all the lights are out except for the dashboard panels.
Yeah,
that's what it looked like. But the rest of it's all brightly lit. But when you go in there, it's dark, and it was amazing. And we actually had to put in box fans pointed outward to get some breeze in there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
with all the computers, I'm sure it got hot.
Oh
in there.
yeah, and just all the people, and then
it's really uncomfortable.
All the spirits.
It was super scary. Exactly. I mean, it was great.
It was.
But every scary thing that was in there, the scariest things that were in there, was Brant's personal collection.
Dude, I love that.
And some of it wasn't even meant for Halloween. It was just kind of there. So they're like, oh my God, this is weird. And I'm like, oh yeah, I just had that a lot.
Yeah, that's my Christmas dolls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Those are those gas masks I bought at the flea market one time. Like, my God. Yeah.
Do you put a spooky or a creepy or oddity spin on any holiday you do?
You know what? I'm really big on if you're going to tell a story, tell it the way it's supposed to be told. So if someone asked me to do something real Christmassy, I would actually try to make it look genuinely Christmassy. But I would ask do you want a 1970s Christmas? Do you want 80s Christmas, or do you want just modern day? This could be a Foley's commercial Christmas, and then you're just oh, I'm kind of going for this. I'm all right. Then you want to, for this, for today's stuff, you want to actually use primary colors and pastels. And okay, and then I'm for 70s Christmas, you would actually use a lot more earth tones to go with the bright colors, and go into all that whole stuff because I think of it if we were making a movie, how would we make it look?
Sure.
So I'm really big on juxtaposition. Okay, so Squid Game. Squid Game's all the rage right now, as it should be, because it's amazing. But one thing that makes it so iconic is the right use of costume, the right use of imagery, and we juxtapose where all the horror is happening in the bright colors.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Midsummer, like the movie Midsummer. All the horror is happening in the sunlight.
Yeah.
And so I'm really big on I've always wanted to do a movie about a beauty pageant where everything looks candy colored, amazing, but all the horror is happening in that whole setting. And so when people say I want it to look scary, I'm like, well, hold on, what kind of scary are you wanting it to look like? Point at something. I'll pull up pictures on the internet and say, point at what's scary to you.
Yeah.
And I'll say, is that the kind of scare you're going for? And sometimes they'll say no, and they don't know how to put their finger on it. So I'll pull up, and I've got a plethora of movies and books and images or people art photos, and say, okay, out of these, which one is the most like what you're going for? And sometimes they'll go, that right there. And I'm like, okay, so what you want is something eerie, where maybe it's not intentionally scary, but the way it's presented makes it scary.
Yeah, or uncomfortable. Or
exactly.
I don't know what about that thing. Just
exactly. Yeah. And the thing is that to me is the most fun because it's so open to interpretation, but it's so rewarding because when you hit it, because everyone reacts the same way. You can see the hair stand on the back of their neck, even though it's just a kid sitting in a high chair, or it's just somebody sitting on a park bench.
Yeah,
there's something about it, and I'm like, okay, here's what it is. Their arm is way too long. They're like, what? Oh, it is. Or sometimes you have to do little things, and like the thing is your mind will pick up on it. Your subconscious is very strong. It's stronger than your conscious. But that's what keeps you alive. That's what makes us see faces and things that don't have faces.
Mm-hmm.
Because it makes us because in our back when we all lived outside in the forest, or
It's like instinct. You need to know if it's a predator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so your mind was trying to like, hey, and like it would make you.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
I've watched a video about that. There's a name for that, but I forget what it is.
oh yeah, and that's why like, and I can't remember the name right now, but you're right. And like, and so like it's a cross between that and mimetics. Mimetics is the act of the thing that kind of makes us all unifiedly do something without any explanation. Like, let's say on an island there will be a tribe of monkeys on one side that never ever talk to or fraternize with the tribe of monkeys on the other side. They probably don't even know that they're even there. And let's say they've always eaten bananas whole, peel and all. And let's say the tribe in the east starts peeling their bananas. For some reason, the tribe in the west will start doing it too. If not right then, soon afterwards, even though they didn't talk to each other, even though there was nothing to show, hey, do this, or hey, that's a good idea, they'll just start doing it. Well, we as a culture, we do that. And so we actually we do take information in a way that we don't fully comprehend on our waking selves and say, okay, this there's something about this. There's something about this song. There's something about, that's why songs in the minor key are always like kind of like have that sullen sound, even if they're high paced. Mm-hmm. Songs in the major key just sound way too happy, even when they're trying, And I said, like, okay, juxtaposition. It's midnight. You're walking down the hallway. You think you saw someone at the end, and then all of a sudden something in the distance is playing in the major key. It makes it scarier than when you're trying to play scary music. Mm-hmm. And so, if 99 Red Balloon starts playing off in the distance, it's going to sound scarier and dun 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 dun, and then it's going to sound scarier because it doesn't make sense why that should be there, why that's even in this area, what happened.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing where you see it in movies. You'll see someone getting gunned down, and they'll be playing "Perfect Day" by Lou Reed, and it sounds like this serene, nice song, but what's happening makes the song makes it the situation seem worse. Or "What a Wonderful World" by Armstrong,
Louis
Armstrong. And like they always like people getting gunned down in the streets, and they're playing that song in the background,
Sure.
So those juxtapositions work for a reason. And so like whenever I'm asked to help put something together, I always think about that. What are you going for? Because I'm like, if you're trying to scare people, there's different ways to do it. Are you trying to scare people with a human element? Are you trying to scare people with a supernatural element? Are you trying to scare people by putting them in a situation they themselves would hate to be in? Because I remember writing a script where someone gets a bathtub gets removed and they get placed under it, and they're basically, they can't even turn their head all the way, and they're right under the drain. And the person that they're yelling to that lives in that house is deaf and doesn't know that they're there.
Oh, gosh.
So I was like, okay, so we get to hear this person scream as they drown, and the person that's killing them has no idea they're killing them. But the fact that they're drowning, it's claustrophobic, you play on all that stuff, it makes it all the more scary, and it makes the person feel anxiety. And I was like, okay, well, that's that type of scary. Are you trying to do this other one where, somebody's hunting somebody in the woods, or, and so it's
God, that freaked me out, dude.
Yeah,
I'm going to check my drain tonight, dude.
Yeah.
It's your mouth.
Oh, God.
that mouth.
It's always just you always look, even as a kid, you look at the drain when you're taking a bath, it's like, that's like just this void that you have no idea where it goes.
It reminds me of It. When I saw the TV like limited series they did back in the day.
Yeah.
That one, oh my gosh. I haven't seen the new ones, but I know for a fact. I know already that they're not going to like mess me up like that one did.
Yeah.
Not only because I was a kid, but that scene in the showers, the drain, dude, for years. I mean, I just thought about it now, so I'm going to be all scared now.
Oh, yeah,
dude. Well, that's the point of the spooky Geekdom Underground episode, but to leave you a little bit spooked out.
A little bit spooked out. Good thing it's the morning though, so
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I will say that Brant, you're super knowledgeable in like the whole. Even though you're in a lot of these scary roles, you're in a lot of these horror films. I'm glad we talked about like the other side of it, where like you're really paying attention to the setting and how it makes the viewer feel, and your perspective is awesome. Like just telling us right now about all those things I don't even think about the arm being too long or about what kind of scare element I'm looking for. And I had a very unique experience with you watching Breaking Bad, which is one of my favorite series to date. Still one of the favorite shows. Well, when that series was happening, season 4, 5, and 6, we were friends when it was happening live.
Yeah.
And so we would watch it, and I remember I would watch the episode. It was on Sundays. I would watch the episode on Sunday. We would go to work on Mondays and we'd just talk about it, unload about it. And that was when we were right next to each other. And the things I would see were totally different from the things that Brant would see. And it would help me understand more about the writers and the whys. And I remember distinctly, as an example, as we were getting to the later seasons, Brant brought up that, like, have you realized that the color has changed? And like Hank doesn't wear as much bright colors, and we've lost different colors from the very first season. Everything is jovial and happy, and like in like the last season, everything's like orange.
Yeah, everything was kind of like the color palette was getting more muted, and like the only person that had any consistency was Walt. But like he started wearing brighter greens. The worse he was getting, the brighter his greens would get.
Yeah,
because like he's kind of coming to his own. Because like he was always beaten down. Now he's finally. Because think about like the first episode, like the first few, he's wearing like this kind of muted green avocado, flesh, like muted green plaid shirt. When he's getting his cancer diagnosis, when he's milling about, when he kills Gustavo Fring. Sorry for the spoilers on everybody.
Spoiler it
There we go. You should know by now. Come on now. No, but like.
Nailed it.
The shirt he's wearing is green, but it's like a very loud green.
Yeah.
And so like even though he's all busted up, he's taking his licks, but he's also he's getting bigger. He's and like and the thing is that's the whole thing. I think that after Gustavo Fring is when he started becoming more of a villain. Because at first, first of all, like we saw him as like, okay, he's trying to save everybody. He's trying to stop this guy. And at one point, Jesse asked him, he did have to die, right? And it's like, it made you question, was Gustavo really the bad guy? Was he really a bad guy?
Yeah, that's true.
If you think about it, Gustavo's anger towards them was always because they kept screwing up. And like, I put all this money into it. You said you would do this thing. I was actually paying you money. Well, I mean, I was doing what I said I would. But then you start screwing up and not showing up or doing other things or snooping around, and now I don't like that. And I was like, well, what crime boss wouldn't like that?
Yeah.
And so so you're thinking about it, you're like, okay, well, so it was earned, but you wanted to not pay consequences. That's what it really was.
Yeah.
And so it was that kind of thing where it's like, okay, you start. I said when you start like we always looked at Skylar, for instance, as like the big the mood kill, like the buzz kill.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, actually, she was the voice of reason. We were just all so caught up in what we wanted to see, Carnage, that anytime she tried to stop Carnage, we would get mad at her.
It's like, why'd you stop the momentum?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, like, it's that kind of thing where it's supposed to make you question what you do or what you're doing. And, like, at what point did you start wanting the bad things to happen?
Yeah.
And
I remember you saying something about, like, did you see in that scene when the oranges fell? And I was like, now that you say that, yes, but there was like
to Godfather.
Yeah, there's like a references, like all these crazy references that you knew of, and I just always have appreciated that, about you, because I've learned so much more. So,
hey, shout out Vince Gilligan.
Oh God, yeah. And Better Call Saul. When he first was talking about on a DVD commentary on Breaking Bad, he was talking about, I'm thinking of doing like a spinoff series of Better. And
that's a good impression.
That's exactly how I love it because he sounds so jovial. Oh, I did a movie called Walter Napalm, and I was like, oh my God, he did Walter Napalm. That was an amazing movie.
Hey, X-Files.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, I did X-Files for a few years, and I decided, man, I don't want to be a Walmart greeter. I better make something. And so like he was so like it's funny hearing him talk about that stuff, and then he was talking about like I'm thinking of doing a Better Call Saul, and then he does it, and I'm like, oh my God, this show's amazing too, and I'm like, why did I ever doubt him?
Yeah,
it's like if he did a show about someone that just babysits kids, it's going to be amazing because it's him.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and something else about you too is that I really got the inspiration from you that like if you want to dress up as something scary for Halloween or just for a scary thing, you don't always have to go out and buy your costume. You can get some things and then modify them, like you talked about, like getting something repainted or something. And
absolutely,
and so specifically last year when I got this sweet mask. It was an Eddie mask from Iron Maiden. And I got it just in time to wear here at Geekdom. I was so pumped about it. And for those of you that don't know, it's like a horrific skull like undead character that has this really long hair. And when I got the mask, the hair was all messed up. It was just like kind of cheaply put on there, and I was so upset. But I called Brant. I remember I sent you a picture of it, and you knew exactly what to do. Like you were like, you need glue, electrical tape, hairspray, all these things. And it worked. It worked so awesome. But so what would you say to like, we're coming up on Halloween very, very soon. And for those folks that maybe don't have a costume or anything, what are some tips on like things you can put together that you can scare people? You can still be scary.
I love that question.
Yeah.
Okay. You'd be surprised what all you have around that could actually be, if you just position it right, it could be used to be something scary. I remember getting someone that is like, they had a white pillowcase. So I said, here, we're going to put some holes in the back, and we're going to, lace it in the back toward your face. Then we marked where his actual facial features were, and we made a tiny, tiny little like rip where the mouth was because we knew it was going to keep ripping. And where the eyes were, and we pulled it back, and then like I got some of my grease paint, and I touched around like his eye sockets. I touched around like you feel where the skull is, and it doesn't make a skull, but it just makes like a weird face. And because the eye holes were so small and the mouth hole was so small, you can't really see it, so it just looks like an uninterrupted face. And then you put a hood on over it, and I said, black gloves and a hood save you on a lot of stuff. I've done black gloves and a hood so many times, but like, the have a face on underneath, and people were like, oh my God, that looks amazing. That looks amazing. And sure enough, like he did it, and he took some pictures, and he's like in the bathroom, and he took a picture, sent it to his mom. And she didn't think it was him, because that's just not something he would wear. He's like Ned Flanders.
Yeah.
But the first thing she did was like, somebody's at your house, they have your phone. And she sent it to his phone, and I was like, so she's funny. Literally warning the guy that's, if that's what she's really. But like, he called her up, was like, no, like we did this thing, and we're, we want to take the kids trick-or-treating. And he made the eye holes a little bigger so he could see, walking around at night. But like, it actually, he said that he could tell it was off-putting to people because they would see the kids and then they'd see him. And this one lady was like, is that man with you? I was like, yeah, those are my kids. And she was like, is that your dad? And she's like, didn't believe him. She was like, because like he's standing in the yard letting him, and he didn't think about how he looked. So he said before the end of it, he actually took the mask off because he realized that eventually someone's going to call the cops because he looked like just some guy just standing in the lawn while kids are there. And so like he said, but it looks so effective. And the thing is he took the mask off, and then when he laid it out flat, the picture looked really weird. And his daughter got it, and she drew over it, made this art piece that looks like a big smiling face. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And he's like, out of a pillowcase. And I'm like, yeah.
Man, that's great.
You could do that. And I said, like a paper bag. Sometimes you could do stuff like that with a paper bag. Having a paper bag mask, like it doesn't last very long, but it is effective. Let's see, Ace Bandaging. You could do a lot of stuff with Ace Bandaging. And whatchamacallit, there's like so much that you can do with old clothes. Like if you just put them on the right way, if you and like the thing is I said, make it to where if you only buy a mask, you only buy a mask. The rest of it is I said, there's nothing scarier than real clothes, because then people wonder, okay, is this a guy that's just wearing a costume, or is it, because you can't tell because it looks like just regular clothes. So it's like, okay, this could be just some dude, And I've gotten that a lot.
That is scary.
Yeah, so when I remember sending my dad a picture, like, hey, and I sent him a picture of what I looked like for Halloween that one year, and he's like, all right, now don't get arrested. Because like I'm this grown man, I'm a large man.
Yeah.
So like even when I would paint my face up, like this different makeup that I would do, and walk into a place, for the most part, people don't really care. But there's some people where they're like, I want to assume this guy is just some party goer, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And they have that look, and so like it's that kind of thing where otherwise I don't look like someone that would participate in that. And that's the whole thing. I don't look like somebody that would even have like, DVDs of cartoons or have anything like that. I look like somebody that doesn't have time for that, or does, just basically lives in a box. But like then they're like, okay, I don't know what's going on with this dude. And that's the biggest thing. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of what I'm going for. It's not just spooky mask. It's, I don't know what's going on with this dude.
And that's real scare.
That is real scare.
That's,
And maybe that's not fun for everybody, but I'm like, dude, but there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's the way some people react towards, like when you have a scary look and it's great for films. Like I said, it's horrible for my dating life. I said, it's kind of like how people see guns. They love looking at them on screen and they're so cool. And like, oh wow, like on screen, that's really cool. If someone pulls it out in real life, it makes people uncomfortable. Yeah. So you in person make people uncomfortable, but when you're on screen, people love that. They can't get enough of that. And I've heard that before. Like I'm in this one called Guts. It's a comedy about a guy who's born with his guts on the outside, and he wants like a promotion and move up in the world, and he's so off-putting, and everything that comes with having your guts on the outside. He bleeds everywhere, and
naturally.
And I just have like a walk-on role, but everyone's like, I know that you're just on screen for just a couple seconds, but it always gets such laughs. I'm like, yeah. I said I try to get mileage out of whatever I'm doing. So people are always like, oh man, when you're on screen, it's golden. And it's a great thing to hear. When you're on screen, you really drag people in, and people really want to watch, and they keep, it's great to hear.
Yeah.
But I said, when I'm in person, sometimes it doesn't come off that way.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going on with me. They don't know who I am. I said, I don't go around telling everybody, oh, I do acting,
Yeah.
And so like if I'm at the grocery store waiting behind somebody in line and I see them go to another register that's longer, the line's longer, I know that they just didn't want to be in front of me.
Yeah.
They probably got their own story. Sometimes life happens. And I don't just sit there and go like, oh, Jesus, I know what I look like.
Yeah.
Big guy wearing all black, got a long hair and a beard. And a lot of the times I'm just going to the store. I'm not going to the Morton's, steakhouse. So
yeah,
I'm not even all kempt up. I'm like, I'm just here to buy some Coke Zeros and, Joan Jett. And so I look like ass, and I don't really care. But sometimes people think things like, okay, is there something up with this dude?
Yeah.
He looks scary. And so it's not even like a compliment thing, like, oh, I look really intimidating. No, it's sometimes it's not like the whole like, oh, he looks like he's really going to, really intimidating biker guy. It looks sometimes like, I don't know what's up with this dude. I don't know if he's even all there.
Yeah.
And that's not exactly something people want to hear about themselves in everyday society.
Yeah.
But I've kind of cultivated the look. I, don't do anything to help it if I'm just walking around, I'm just here to get Coke, and just walk off. And so I have to kind of like understand,
yeah,
this is part of it.
Well, you're killing it. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Well, so Brant, we've had an awesome time. Thank you so much for coming on here. I do have one more question for you. For it, like I said, you elegantly balance this work-life balance of having two full-time gigs where you're in the tech industry, and also you are an actor, producer, set builder, and when it comes to the films, what advice would you give to somebody who has aspirations of getting into the film industry, but doesn't really know where to start? And so what advice would you give to somebody, or what advice would you have liked to heard?
The advice I'd give to people is go where the action is, go to film festivals, meet people, because they're all going to be filmmakers and actors and, people that you want to, and also go be a PA on a film. Go on productionhub.com, go on Craigslist, look up films that are, mill about intelligently on that, but look up films that are being made and just, hey, I'll help with whatever.
Yeah,
I'll just help with whatever.
I'll wrap cables. I'll move boxes.
Exactly, because there's never too many of that.
Yeah,
and people like a problem solver. People like it when you take care of stuff that they themselves don't have to worry about, and it also allows you to meet people because. Sure. You might get along real well with the sound guy and get along real well with someone doing craft services, and you didn't realize it, but that person wants to do his own gig, and later on it's like, hey, I'm directing a film. I'd like you to help. I'd like you to work on it with me. And if you're like, okay, I would really like to be in films. Is there somebody I can send take a headshot and I can send it to? And they'll tell you, because you're not just some schmo, you're you. You're that problem solver. You're that person they like. Yeah. And then they'll take in consideration. Sometimes they'll use you out of necessity. A friend of mine, Nadia, she was in the movie Death Proof for a second, the Quentin Tarantino movie. Mm-hmm. She was there working as a PA, and she's this Asian tattooed up Scotch chick, and real cool person. I don't mean to sum her up like, oh, chick. Yeah. But the thing is she was working as a PA, and there's a scene where Quentin Tarantino asks a couple of Austinite girls, because it takes place in Austin, and they wanted people that look like they're straight up from Austin, and she does. A question about you remember this TV show? And they're like, well, she was one of the girls that was doing that. And I was like, hey, that's Nadia, So I called her up and like, hey, I saw you in Death Proof. She's like, oh yeah, they used me just because I was there. And I was like, I've watched productions where I can tell they're using the sound guy. It's just some guy sitting in the background just to take up, or that kind of thing, or reality shows are infamous for that. I'm like, I could tell that's one of the PAs. There's a bar rescue, and there's a scene where they're trying to show the aspect, the part of the show where they turn the bar around. Yeah. And one of them was the security wasn't really doing their job, but now they are. And how they showed that was this couple that always goes there is sitting there talking, and then some guy comes over and he's sitting down at their table without being invited, and then he's all telling the boyfriend, think the girl wants an old fashioned. Oh, yeah. And doing that whole trying to intimidate him, yeah, and get him to leave the table. And so eventually the bouncer sees it and kicks the guy out, and on the way the guy out, the guy just kind of does something stupid, he goes by the pool table, he's all yeah. And I was like, okay, that was obviously a PA or sound person. Yeah, I was like, first of all, I said, we see his face on screen. You have to sign a release in order for us to see your face. Who would go over and in the middle of a crew start messing with the people on, you know what I mean? And then nobody does anything about it. Yeah, sure. And then it takes the bar security to come over. Hey, it's time for you to leave. And then on the way out, he's like, do something like you're really mad. And I was like, oh, got okay. Him. Got him. Yeah, rebel you. And so I was looking at it, I was like, this is so ridiculous. But I was like, that's somebody that works.
Hey, but he was there.
He was there. And I was like, but that's the thing. Thank you for, because I need to go back to the whole point is, if you're on set, if you're doing something, you're there. Yeah. And anything is networking, like the tech industry. Yeah, we all know each other, because you did Dragon Chats, and then you know how to, you did all these, I don't know how many times you interviewed with different positions because you were just like, I was going to do something, and you did, and you started like, going up and up and up and up and up and up. And then like, and it was like, oh, wow, and like inspiring stuff. But is that kind of thing where I'm like, yeah, that's so cool. Well, here we are years later. Didn't know that this was going to happen.
I know.
And the thing is, I might like,
look at us. We made it, dude.
We made it.
Geekdom Underground podcast.
Exactly. And you never know. I might be like, hey, can you bring your wife and your daughters and bring? Could you bring John? We just need some people up here.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, it's like this big film, and like, and that can happen. And like, and it has happened. I've called up people before out of the blue, like, hey, how fast can you get to Taylor? Where are you right now? I'm in Houston. So that if you left right now, it would take you probably about 3 hours to get here. Like, yeah. Can you floor it and get here in about 2 hours? Like, we really need people. We really need you. So like that can happen. But but that's my thing is that getting on a set, getting to know people, networking.
Yeah. And
again, nobody is just one thing or another. Sometimes you could spawn a relationship that turns into something because everyone I've known, they've risen the ranks. They've done their own thing.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when I was on Sin City 2 as an extra, okay, that's all you're ever going to be is an extra on there. That's fine. But I ran into this guy, Alan Ray, that was really inspired by looking at the lighting setup and stuff. And he was like, I want to do my own little cliffhanger series and make it look like this. And, and he sounds like a dreamer, but he's like, I'd like you to be involved in it. I'm like, sure. Well, I did a reading for one of his scripts last night. He's written like over 1,200 pages of content. He's been doing this stuff for a few years now. For some years now, just in his spare time when he can, but he does world building, and it looks like an old Flash Gordon, black and white. It looks amazing and really good world building, and I'm like, so it's that kind of thing where you never know, and like he stuck to it, and he was like, I really want to make enough stuff to where I can go and pitch it to, and I was like, if he pitches it and it turns into something big, because I'll tell you this, Russian Doll that was on Netflix. Where the lady can't die, every time she dies, she goes right back to on her birthday where she's looking in the mirror and she's trying to avoid dying or trying to change things. It's kind of like Groundhog Day, but a little more kitschy.
Yeah.
7 years, but it took 7 years to get that finally into production. Squid Game, 10 years.
Dang.
This is after he shopped it around to so many people and kept getting turned down because they're like, we've already seen Battle Royale, and he's like, it's not Battle Royale.
It's different.
It's different, but the thing is, when it's a stack of paper and you're just trying to pitch it, people can't see how awesome it becomes and what it is. You don't have all the cool actors and all the cool costumes and all the cool sets, and you don't have the juggernaut reaction that it gets.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to at one point sell his computer to make ends meet. And you don't think about that. And the thing is, he was already kind of doing some films here and there, but what people don't realize is but you did this film, and it's like, yeah, I did it for this studio under this contract that I had to do 3 pictures. And when I signed it, I was nobody and I had no negotiating power. So I did that, but I got paid almost nothing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't think about that.
Yeah.
It's like, it's this movie I was like, yeah, dude, we're eating ramen and living in our car while making that. When Apocalypse Now was being made, Francis Ford Coppola had to pull out a second mortgage because they went so over budget, but he was so determined to finish it. And so it's that kind of thing where I'm like, chasing your dreams, especially in this industry, is expensive. What I would have liked to have been told, to go back to what you asked, long way around the world, sorry about that.
No,
That's okay.
Is I would like to have been told, quit, because I was told, I tried to get an agent and they were like, we would like it better if you had more. This is back in 99, 2000. We would like it if you had more training and more experience. I didn't really have much under my belt.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I got to go out and do all this stuff. And I was trying to focus on just doing the usual channels. And I think that's the dumbest thing you can do because let's face it, trying to break into the business is literally you're trying to break in. You don't open the door and walk in, you break in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to scale the walls. You have to, bust the window open. You have to
kick the door like homie did.
Yeah,
exactly.
Back in the day.
You have to, and but that's the thing. Find a way in, because some of these people that are very, very some of them are lucky. Rosario Dawson was just sitting on her front she was squatting. Her and her mom were homeless basically, and she was just squatting. and the first movie she was in was Kids, and Harmony Korine, the writer, producer, director, just happened to see her, and he was like, "You want to be in a movie?" She was like, "Okay." And there you go. It took off for her because the movie was a huge success. Well, other people, they're like, they busted butt. They really like had like they spent they were sleeping in tents. They were, they didn't have a home. They were really trying, and then they just finally and they had the same story. I went to this audition, it didn't work. I went to this audition, it didn't work, and then no one's looking. No one ever looks in your direction. I didn't even get to open my mouth that time. They just said thank you, and I just kept walking. And then sometime someone will say like, "Okay, can you be over here at 9:30?" Yeah. And then that thing turns into something huge out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're going along with it. You're huge along with it. I mean, look at Stranger Things.
Yeah, you just got to be open to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So to sum it all up, your advice: get out there, network, be open, and put yourself on set by all means necessary.
Yep. Don't worry about being the biggest, baddest thing on set at all.
Yeah.
People don't like the guy that's trying to do that. They hate the guy that's trying to do that. If you are a problem solver, they'll make sure the next time, because every gig leads to the next gig.
Yeah.
They'll make sure next time you're doing something better or that you're more recognized something, because they want you to be there and they want you back.
Yeah.
It's not always thankful. It's not always, people don't always tell you thank you. People don't always see all the stuff you go through. But just to be there is worth it. And I'm telling you, I've I don't know how many times I run into people on set over and over and over again, and we all like, "Hey, it's great to be on a set with you again." And then out of nowhere, they're calling me saying, "Hey, this guy needs somebody, and I just want to see if you're available because it sounds like something you'd want to do."
Yeah.
All right. Or they're the ones doing the project now. They're the ones that's actually in the director's seat, and they like working with you. That's the thing is, it's not always this aptitude test. How good are you as an actor? Sometimes they just like you.
Yeah.
And they're going to make it work.
Just want to work with you again.
Yeah.
See something in you, kid.
Yeah,
exactly.
dude.
Exactly. And so that's where I'm like, that's why you see some people that are not that very talented rise up.
Yeah.
Because they brought something to the table. You have other people that are extremely talented that are having a hard time. It's like, it's not fair, but I'll tell you what, you increase your chances when you just put yourself in the middle of it all and stay there.
Yeah.
It is.
So that's it.
Man, well, Brant, what a great episode of Geekdom Underground. Spooky season is upon us.
Oh, yeah.
Halloween coming up. I hope everybody's getting excited and scared. Mr. JRG, if you would, please take us home, sir.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, watching live, and tuning in every week. But yeah, maybe we got some more spooky things in the works. We'll see.
Stranger Things.
And yeah, hey. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week. Take it easy, y'all.
Bye,
You too.
everybody.